Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Expat Conversations with your host, Michael Nolen. Once again, I want to thank the University of Guadalajara Institute of Investigation, Innovation, and Governance, which is headed up by Dr. Marco Antonio Cortez Gradado, for allowing us to have this program. And also want to thank the beautiful Hotel Riviera Lago Villa Monte Carlo for allowing us to film at this beautiful, beautiful resort here in Chapala, Mexico, on the beautiful Lake Chapala. And if you're ever down here and need a great hotel to stay at, it's very, very nice. They have a very, very unique thing here that you won't find in probably any other hotel in this area, is all your water in your bath and also the shower is hot thermal mineral water. So you can fill the bathtub up full of mineral water and just relax and let all those pains and aches go away. Or you can go to one of the thermal baths, the large pools that they have here. If you're a pickleball player, they have beautiful, beautiful pickleball courts, 2 or 3 other beautiful, nice swimming pools. They have a great restaurant and very, very nice, well-appointed rooms. So if you're coming down, if you're an expat coming down, thinking about moving to the Lake Chapala area, and need a place to stay for a while, the Hotel Villa Monte Carlo is a fabulous place to stay. Again, thank you for tuning in. I'm very fortunate to have a gentleman on my program today, Mr. Steve Balford. Am I saying your last name correct?
Balford, just like
Balford.
Balford.
I remember when I first met Steve several years ago, I said, when I was a young guy, it was actually in about February of 1972. I was going to Bishop McGinnis High School in Oklahoma City, and the guy from Balford Ring came.
Balford Ring Company.
Balford Ring Company,
Massachusetts.
and he came to size all the juniors and seniors that wanted to buy a college or high school graduation ring. And he actually had a duplicate of a couple of the Super Bowl rings and the NBA championships and the MVP rings. I mean, these weren't the one because the one went to the player or the teams. But he had some of those samples. And I got talking to the guy, and he just said, well, I go to a different high school every day. I have like 3 states. And I take all the sizing and fittings. And then I go back 2 or 3 months later and give them their rings. Oh, that's a hell of a job.
Yeah.
I want to do what you do.
Do it.
Well, I never did. But anyway, I'll never forget that because it was Balford Ring Company. I think they still make the Super Bowl rings and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, your name was familiar with a blast from the past.
All right. Great.
So anyway, Steve has for a while been president of the Lake Chapala Society, which is a very, very important community project, is what I'm going to call it, here in the Lake Chapala area. It's the place for everybody to go to find out anything you need to know just about anything or anybody. And they've got a very, very large membership. And I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, Steve, give a little bit of your history. I know you're a hotel restaurant manager, or at one time in your former life. And then you were from the northeast part of the United States, if I'm not mistaken. And I want you, if you don't mind, just give a little bit of your bio. And then talk a little bit about how you got down here, not by bus or train or car or plane, but how and what brought you to Lake Chapala Society, or Lake Chapala area, and then what you do down here.
Sure.
If you don't mind. And then
Absolutely.
we'll give out information about how the things you do can be beneficial to the expat community. And we'll just go on and play it by cuff.
Sounds great.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you for your time, though. I want to say that again.
Thank you for hosting this. So I grew up in the Boston area in my younger years, and originally was going to go into law and politics, and then I got disenfranchised with that concept, so ran away from that.
We had some politicians up there by the name of Kennedy that were kind of important.
Oh yeah,
in that area.
yeah, know that family.
Yeah.
Sure. I know the Kennedy family, the Bush family, I have a bunch. Most of my family's still in
Now, the
politics.
Bushes are from Texas, actually. Well, I
Well,
think
but-
George Sr. was born up there,
We had this nice place in Kennebunkport.
and then had Zapata Oil and Gas in Midland, Texas for a long time, and then his sons got involved. And
Yeah.
I knew him in the oil and gas business. I didn't know him in the politician
Right.
part, but if you know the Bushes, you're pretty well hooked up in
My
Texas.
brother worked for the family, so
Oh, they're great
so I was
people.
20 years in Boston area, then 20 years in Los Angeles. 10 years in Atlanta, Georgia, and then found my way down here. So I've been down here just about 6 years now.
Okay.
And love it down here. And
The weather's perfect.
it's perfect.
You know, every day I listen to the news, and it's flooding in the east part of the United States, burning up in the west part of the United States, and we're down here. It never gets below 60. It never gets above 85. It's just perfect.
It's perfect.
We're at about 5,300 feet altitude.
Yeah.
No humidity really to speak of. Nice, beautiful weather every day.
That's what brings people here. It keeps them
That's
coming.
exactly right. I better quit advertising. We have half of the East Coast and West Coast.
That's
down
all
here.
right. We got room. Come on
Oh,
down.
do we? Okay.
So I very much enjoy it. I came to Mexico really. I've been involved in Mexico since my first trip here was back in 1978. Then in 1994, I produced a concert in Mexico City with a team of people, a team of us, and it was a concert with Mark Anthony and Celia Cruz. And it was a
Wow.
fundraiser for a hospice, a children's hospice in Mexico City. And then got more and more involved then. I ran a company in LA where I had about 150 guys from Mexico that worked for me. It was an event planning company, so we rented big tents, tables, chairs. We've done the Grammy Awards, the Soul Train Awards, Country Music Awards, all those different things. And so it was a great experience. And really, I never took classes in Spanish, but I listened to my workers, and so I learned sounds, and those sounds I was able to identify with things. And so when the opportunity came to move down here, friends were looking for a house, I came with them, and I'd never heard of Ajic before, although I've been in 9 different states before moving down here. And so when I came down with friends looking for a house, I just like, ooh, this is intriguing, and I could do this. And so ended up next to my last day of the trip of just exploring with them, stumbled on a house. It was the perfect house for me on the lake here, and spent probably a good year or so remodeling that and doing a lot of changes to it. And then I became involved with the Lake Chapala Society, first as a board member and a volunteer, and then when the previous executive director needed to step away and start his own business, he asked me if I'd step in and take on the role of executive director. So I did that for a little bit of time. And then when COVID hit us, then there was an opening for the president of the organization. So I ran for president, which is a volunteer position, and met so many wonderful people in the process, and did a lot of planning for how we were going to deal with the COVID situation. And a lot of people don't realize, but Lake Chapala Society was within probably 3 months of going out of business altogether. At one point in time. We had appraisers come in and look at the property. We had an investor come in to see if they were interested in buying it. And it was that
close. It was that dire
close.
straits.
It was dire
Wow.
straits.
Not the band from
Right.
down under, but
Yeah.
dire straits.
But so since I've been in fundraising for most of my life, early days for political campaigns, but in the past 40 years, I've really worked with nonprofits, American Cancer Society, Alzheimer's Association.
Well, thank you very much for doing that, because the Red Cross was in here earlier today, and I did an interview with them, and that is, what they really need is how to raise funds.
Right.
And
they're good friends of mine. So of course,
well-
I did a fundraiser concert on my birthday last year for them, and we there was a matching grant involved.
And when was your
So-
birthday?
Well, we raised over $1 million pesos for the Red Cross.
I was probably at that.
over a year ago.
That-
And so that was a great thing. There was June 9th, my birthday. I like to use my birthday as a fundraiser for different groups. And
Well, that's awful nice of you.
Yeah, as a kid, I volunteered with the Red Cross up in the States, and was in the Boy Scouts and helped with a lot of different programs. Learned a lot from them. So it's a great.
No, it's a great organization.
Great organization.
One unbelievable.
It is.
And we're explaining that how different it is here than it is in the States.
Oh yeah, very
And
different,
in other countries, in Canada even, because they do so much more down here than they
Yeah.
do in those others. They're not just a emergency place when there's a big catastrophe or earthquake or hurricanes. Big problem.
Sure.
They help every single
Sure,
day in
absolutely.
so many ways.
So we did that, and I really believe in collaborations. I believe all communities working together. So I've focused on doing that. So the Red Cross was one of my efforts, and I worked with Yolanda from the president of the Red Cross on that. And then also we've done a fundraiser for Food Bank Food Bank Lakeside. Sorry about that. Food Bank Lakeside, which was a great organization that started up as a result of COVID. So helping provide meal packages, food service to local families. So it's a wonderful organization. And then I've worked with Ahi Cares, the Lakeside Little Theater. I'm now doing some projects with.
You have a lot of time, don't you?
And then we had a meeting yesterday to talk about the chili cook-off.
Well, that got brought up a little earlier from the Red Cross about the chili cook-off, that's a big fundraiser. And they were talking about how, I lived in 5 years for Puerto Vallarta, and that they have two chili cook-offs, two different organizations raise a lot of fund, a lot of money. And it's mainly gringos. And they say over here, it's kind of the same thing, and they're wanting to get everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, I hear it's a 70-30 split here, where it's 70% expats,
and then the Mexican,
and the Mexican community here.
Well, chili's a great thing. I used to cook in it. I used to have the radio show I had. We kind of cheated because we had the executive chef of the University of Guadalajara Culinary School help me out a little bit. He sent a couple of his chefs over, and I never did win it. It was through the American Legion. And somehow somebody from the American Legion won that chili cook-off every year. But, it's a great event, and you all raised how many pesos?
So I haven't worked with them in the past. I just had a meeting with them yesterday to talk about how do we revive it, because it's been, the past 2 years because of COVID didn't take place, and it's an important event to the community. But really, Lake Chapala Society, we see this as a sort of, for our organization, we want to be collaborators working with everybody. I don't, some people say, well, Lake Chapala Society is about building a bridge between the expat community and the Mexican community. I don't see that at all. A bridge implies that there's a permanent obstacle in the middle, and what's the permanent obstacle between us? And so I really think we can all collaborate. It's about working together, joining forces, being one community. And Lake Chapala Society has really set up lots of programs in that direction. We have a wonderful children's art program. I've had conversation with Danny Medelis about his new mariachi school, which I'm very excited about, and how LCS, Lake Chapala Society, can be engaged with him and help building that school as a service within the community. Mariachi has its roots here in Jalisco, and it makes sense for it to be strong. So helping young kids with mariachi is wonderful. So Danny Medelis is doing a great job.
Yeah, because we don't want that great cultural. Everybody knows mariachis from Mexico. I think a lot of the instrument stuff came from Germany, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like
It's worldwide. It's worldwide.
And
mariachi.
It's just like the dance, the different types of dancing and the culture down here. We want it to continue, and places like the mariachi school and the dancing fiestas and things like that help the younger children learn their culture.
Sure.
And keep that going on for future generations.
Right.
But
we get that from a lot of expats when they come down here. Well, what is there to do when I come down here? I'm either retired or semi-retired, and I don't want to be bored. So you will not get bored down here. Okay,
No.
Just come on down. I keep myself busy 60 hours a week. Absolutely love it.
that's what I was saying. You got so much free
volunteering.
time. You're busy every second I ever see you, and I thank you very much. And even though you're president and you've been executive vice president and this, that, and the other, I saw you last week and you were carrying tables and chairs around.
Whatever it takes.
You're putting them back up, and you're serving drinks at the different events, and you do everything. And the Lake Chapala Society, I'll tell you what, if you're an expat and you're living down here, you know about it. If you're a future expat and you're coming down here, which I think now that the pandemic's pretty much over with, there wasn't much movement between countries back a year or two ago, and especially for Canada, because their rules and regulations were really, really hard to get in and out of the country. But I think now that things have settled down with that problem, there's going to be a flood of people coming up, the snowbirds that are going to be coming down in October and November. There's going to be a lot of people coming down here and finding out how great and beautiful this place is and making it a permanent home.
Sure.
Or snowbirds, and I think it's going to start swelling up here. There's going to be a lot more people coming down, and the Lake Chapala Society, which you help run on a day-to-day, is a great community center to come and get anything from banking, wills, to how to get a driver's license. I mean, you have an information booth, one of the first things you do when you walk in the door.
Yep.
Besides the library and the restaurant.
And a wonderful pottery class.
All the pottery classes and the
It's
art
amazing.
and Spanish classes, English classes, history classes. Y'all almost like a little mini university.
And we have the only Spanish language biblioteca, library here in Ajic.
Is that right?
It's operated by the Lake Chapala
Wow.
Society, sure. And then we have our English library, which is about 26,000 books in it. So
26,000?
Yeah, tremendous collection
see,
of books
yeah.
there. So you could do a lot of reading.
You know.
And there's plenty of volunteer opportunities at the Lake Chapala Society. No matter what business you've been in your life or hobbies you've had,
That's true.
there's an opportunity to volunteer here in this community. So it's
That's exactly right. And that's one thing I was trying to talk when I interviewed the people with the Red Cross. You know, if you've been a doctor, if you've been a pharmacist, if you've been a medical technician, if you've been a fireman, if you've been anything, pharmacist, you can come down here and get involved. If you have
Absolutely.
wheelchairs, or if you have canes or crutches or whatever that you don't use anymore, or someone passed
there's a
away,
big need for
please
those.
donate all
Yeah,
that stuff to the Red
absolutely.
Cross. But that, you know, that was another show. This one is basically to get to know you better. Thank you for all the things you do. Know more about the Lake Chapala Society. And I know in your past that you were involved in hotel, restaurant administration, venues for events, all types of events, like you said, Soul Train Awards, probably MTV Award. I don't know what all you did.
That one I didn't do.
The
but-
Academy Awards, you know, I've been to those a couple of times.
I bid on the Academy Awards.
Country
but I
Music
just missed it.
Hall of Fame awards, and they used to have those different places. I haven't been to the WWF awards, you know, with the wrestlers and all that, but maybe you never know. You've brought something down to the Lake Chapala Society, which they've had from time to time in the past, but now you've got it set up to where it's pretty regular, is unbelievable entertainment coming to.
Well, that's what one
To
thing
that.
we really do want to focus on. We don't want to compete with entertainment. So there's a lot of opportunities for jazz and blues and rock and roll in different clubs here in town and restaurants, what have you. I want to bring something, fill a void. And so my experience is more in pop and Hollywood, Broadway type music, so on and so forth. And I have good contacts there. And my good friend Mark Rome, who I'm sure you know from Puerto Vallarta, that runs the Palm over there. You know,
Palm's
he
a
helps.
great place.
He helps. You know, keep things filled. And so when we were really in that really difficult situation with the finances of Lake Chapala Society potentially going out, you know, I came up with the idea of doing concerts in the park. So it's our gardens. The Lake Chapala Society is magnificent gardens.
Yeah,
They're
if you've
just
never been here, it's a
beautiful.
tropical sitting area because we have a tropical region here, great
Sure.
growing climate, beautiful. Am I saying it right? Koi fish
we have
ponds.
two koi ponds. Yeah,
And I mentioned the restaurant, which isn't great, but we have a huge. Well, there's a gazebo type.
there's a gazebo
Pel-
there. So we
Pelota
started
gazebo.
these concerts in the park.
And then you have a big area. It's about as big as a basketball court, I would say.
yeah, probably bigger than that.
Maybe bigger, almost football,
Yeah.
American football.
Yeah, but ultimately, the biggest we can hold is 550 people. During COVID, obviously, we haven't done that. But we have concerts, and right now it's about every other Sunday or twice a month. It varies a little bit. And we bring in entertainment from Broadway, from Hollywood, from Palm Springs, from Puerto Vallarta, sorry. And we produce these concerts in the afternoon and in the early evening. And the expat community loves them, but also the Mexican community.
Oh yeah,
supports them.
there's a real mix of people, and they're very inexpensive. What are they? $20 or $15, $18, 350 pesos up to 500, and you get a table and they have refreshments.
Right.
And it's a very great place to go, and you're close, it's intimate.
Yeah.
It's like sitting at. You're not sitting in some big ballroom. You're not sitting, you know, at the AT&T Center or at Radio City Music Hall. It holds like up to 500.
Right.
But the tables are right there close, and the sound stage that you all have built is really, really good, and the audio is unbelievable.
Right. So the concerts are something that I produce myself. They're
Yeah.
not a program of the Lake Chapala Society. They're my concerts because that's the business I've been in my life. And but I put them together as I don't take any funds from them, not a single penny. Actually, every concert I take money out of my pocket for additional
Yeah.
things I need. So all the equipment, building the stage, I'm the one that put that all together. But I love doing it for the community, and that's why I do it for Lake Chapala Society, but also for other groups in the community, such as Lakeside Little Theater, Niños Incapacitados, which is another great group. And so I put on these concerts and use them as fundraise, and we raised about 3.5 million pesos total income.
About
off these
$160,000
concerts in just a little over a year. So
And it's incredible. I mean, I've heard mariachi people there.
Yeah.
I've heard a guy that was a Freddie Mercury
Yeah, Freddie
slash
Mercury's one.
Cream.
He's a dear friend. I took him up to Algonquin, Maine.
The guy's
last
fabulous.
month, and he did
That
a
guy
show
is
up
great.
there for me. Great.
I think I'm gonna say Michael Jackson, Barry
Not Michael
White.
Jackson yet, but we've had.
There's an incredible kid over in Puerto Vallarta that does Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And he doesn't only look like him, but
He does a good job.
I've seen him over there. But like a Barry White, you've had a couple women singers that are. I mean, the entertainment. I know you pull from Puerto Vallarta. 'Cause
Lady
it's such a
Gaga.
touristy place.
Lady Gaga's
I didn't see
another
Lady
top show.
Gaga.
Amazing show. Amazing show.
I've met
Good
Lady
show.
Gaga in person. A
Yeah.
friend of mine painted her as a portrait for Sin City, which she was one of the movies she was in. She was.
Well, this woman is she's from Argentina.
Oh, really?
And she's been selling out in Puerto Vallarta for the past 2 years. And so I've done a couple shows with her here. I also took her up to Algonquin, Maine last month and did a show up there with her. And my dear friend Enrique de Allende, who's from San Miguel de Allende, who's from Mexico here, a great tenor, Andrea Bocelli genre of music, and he'll be performing at Carnegie Hall next fall.
Oh, wow.
So we've had.
Well, I mean, it's big time
He's done like
entertainment.
6 shows for me down here.
Well.
So he's great.
It's just incredible that it's not all local talent either. You bring people
No,
from all over.
Every show involves members of the Latino community. But the performers, many are from Mexico, but others are other Latin countries, Argentina, what have you. But we bring several people down from the United States, where there's a good number of people. So it's kind of balanced, but between there.
Well, like you mentioned, Sunday afternoon, usually around 3 and 5:30, 6
It
o'clock.
depends upon the
Every other
daylight
week,
savings
every
time
3
and what
weeks,
have you. So
whatever.
yeah.
And you can buy your tickets in advance. I know we're through the Lake Chapala Society campus. There's several different boards that you can find out what's coming on
Sure.
in the next months coming in advance. And you can always go to the Lake Chapala Society webpage and find out.
.com.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's just take a little, not a pause or break, but why don't you go ahead and give out contact information and other things to where people that are listening to this program online can go to. They may be planning a trip being down here in November, December, or January and want to make sure they schedule time in for one of your concerts.
Absolutely.
So it's Lake Chapala.
LakeChapalaSociety.com.
Okay.
And that's our website. So you can find on there everything that's going on. You can order tickets on there. We also, another program that's greatly underused at Lake Chapala Society is really a sort of emergency preparedness or end-of-life planning, a post-life program. And it's amazing the number of people that pass away here that don't have a will in order. I know you've done a program on that, but it's important to us as well, where people can come in on a voluntary basis. They can fill out this form that gives whatever information they want to disclose, and we keep it in a database. And frequently we'll get, members of law enforcement, the city government, even the Red Cross that will contact us. Sometimes they'll send me in the middle of the night a picture of a woman that they found hit by a car in the street, and they say, do you know this person? And we can look up in our resources to see who their relatives are. And again, this is all voluntary information.
That's
They
incredible.
only disclose what they want.
I didn't know you all did that.
Yeah, it's very important.
I've worked a lot with the consulate, the American consulate,
As do I, yeah.
in Guadalajara, and also they have a consulate office in Puerto Vallarta. And my good friend Kelly Train was on my program probably every other month, talking about hurricane preparedness, making sure you have all your documents like your will and all this done, making sure that your relatives or your friends or your executor know where your papers are, if they don't have a copy of it, and how important it is. But you all do that. You have a class or course on how to do it and what to do. You also help with driver's license.
Yep.
You help with banking.
And driver's license for expats down here is easy to get, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I have one. I've had one from Nayarit, and I have one from Jalisco. Fortunate, as you know, my wife is Mexican. She's from Guadalajara, and she's a PhD.
And a wonderful person.
Thank you very much. She's very sweet. I have a PhD too. I don't know if you knew that, but mine's a post-hole digger.
There you go.
That's my PhD. I got that from my grandfather's farm.
Mine's MBWA, Management by Walking Around.
Oh, well, that's the College of Hard Knocks. We learn better
Absolutely.
there than we do any other university. But the concerts you all put on, all the different classes that the Lake Chapala Society does is fabulous.
We have over 100 programs, activities that take place on our campus.
How many
So
members?
it's something for everybody.
I know right now there's what 2,000 or 3,000 active members, but you've had up to what on the rolls like 7,000.
Well, there's a good rotation.
I'm not making up that number.
You're making up that number, but that's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I'm good at that.
It's because there's some rotation. There's people that come in and join and stay members for life, which that's what our goal is. We believe we have something for everybody. We get a reputation though of being the newbies organization. You come in, you join for 3 years, you learn what you need to learn, and you drift off. But if you were to do a survey of those people, what programs we offer, they'd probably listen to 10 to 12 programs. They don't realize that we have over 100 programs. So there is something for you to do for the rest of your life with this organization. Things you can learn from, things that you can experience, mentoring you can do with local children or local adults. There's so much opportunity there, and it's just a matter of exploring through it all.
And to come over there and just sit and visit. It's a great social hub.
Mm-hmm.
Make new friends, learn from each other.
Use the Wi-Fi if you don't have Wi-Fi in your
You
apartment
got
or
Wi-Fi?
hotel where you're staying.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was over there a couple of weeks ago. My wife was having some meetings with some of your staff, and I was over in the restaurant area. And I like to take a nap every day about 2:30 for an hour or two. I think it's kind of like I sleep better than that hour and a half than I do all night because I'm not getting up and go to the bathroom and all the stuff as old guys have to. So I laid my head down on the table, and I was taking a little nap, and all of a sudden some guy's tapping on me. And I guess he thought I'd had too many cervezas or tequilas the night before and was still passed out there. But he came over and told me I had to leave because the Lake Chapala Society was closing. And I said, I can't leave. My wife's in a meeting. Well, he didn't speak English. He was one of the groundskeepers. Well, next thing I know, I get up and go find my wife. Her meeting's over about 30 minutes later. And he had sent my wife and a couple of the other people that worked there pictures of me sleeping on the table saying, hey, there's some guy over here that we need to get him out of here. He's a vagrant. But anyway, it was kind of a funny story. And I thought, well, I didn't know anybody was taking pictures of me because I was taking my power nap. But it's a great, great place to go. And the entertainment's incredible. The classes, the area itself is just so fun. One reason I fell asleep there is because that koi pond. You have a couple of fountains, and the water was bubbling and gurgling, and it's just so
amazing
relaxing.
Collection of koi that we have there.
And the trees, I mean, there's always a bunch of them in bloom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many trees, not just fruit trees, but all kinds of flowering trees that you have in that place. Has anybody ever counted?
No, I don't know. There are people that over time have paid attention to that, but Neil James, who really was a key mover of that.
Now, she was a lady that actually owned a lot of the property, came down here many, many years ago. Can you talk just briefly, if you don't mind, I think we have time, a little bit about, she was kind of the one that donated some of her property to, am I getting that story right or wrong?
Yeah, almost. It's pretty good there. So Neil James was really committed to local community, and she started a lot of the art programs. So
and this is quite a few years ago, right?
A long time ago. Sure. And I think about 60 years ago. That I don't remember off the top of my head.
We got to read that plaque a little again.
Yeah, we got to read that plaque. And but she really cared about the local community, cared about the children, and there's a lot of famous artists. This is an artist colony, so there's a lot of famous artists right here in Ahi. And what they have in common is they trained under her. And so it's pretty fascinating. And that stimulated our children's art program on Saturday mornings, which many of these famous artists come and donate, volunteer their time as mentors to the children. And sometimes we'll have 80 kids in an art class on a Saturday morning. We do art camp in the summertime for them, do a lot of different things. But Neil James is really committed to the community, has worked very hard when she was alive. And in her senior years, she was getting on, so there was some collaboration between her and LCS in the transition of the property. And it wasn't an outright donation, but there was a collaboration together on how that is. And we've acquired a couple more houses that were, part of neighbors to our property.
It's basically about a 4 square block area.
It's a good size.
Maybe 4 or 5 acres. Maybe I'm getting a little large.
Yeah, I'm not good at knowing.
I'm not either,
but
you can walk from front to back in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And because you go down the paths and they're so beautiful and.
But so when Neil James had the property, she was a world traveler, did a lot of traveling around the world, and she'd bring plants back from different parts of the world.
Okay, so that's how
which is why we have such a huge variety, and people love to come in and and really, and do some research on the plants and what have you. So, but that's what makes the garden beautiful.
You know what I've noticed? Sometimes when I'm there for the concerts, I'll start looking up at the trees and how many different birds there are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right on the lake, so you have water to fowl,
Sure.
and then you have land birds, and then you have the common sparrows and this, that, and some parrots, and then you have the mountains.
Parrots there.
So you never know what's going to come down from the mountain area.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to sit there and watch the different bird species.
Sure.
And mark off your little list or whatever you
There's
have.
something for everybody there.
I'll tell you what, when I was in Guadalajara, in Puerto Vallarta, at the university, we had a man that was a PhD in birds. I don't want, if I said the word, I'd say it wrong. We'd probably have to X-ray the show out. But anyway, there are over 3,000 species of birds around the Bay of Banderas.
Huh.
And it's the same thing. You have the ocean birds, you have the mountain birds, you have all types of birds that are just normal that are around. But then we had some big ponds on the campus, and he would take a bunch of his students, and 4 times a semester or a year, he would set nets up, like great big giant volleyball nets, and they'd catch birds. Birds would fly into them. Then they'd catch the bird, they'd tag it, they'd measure it, they'd weigh it. They did all kinds of professor type experiments for whatever you call that birders. I call them birders. And they documented everything, and they had a record of over, I think, 3,000 species of birds that they had done for the years. They even had a lady there that was a eye, nose, and hearing specialist, and she made special hearing aids for birders. They're very, very good for high pitches, and before you could see a bird, you'd hear it. And then you'd go follow the sounds of the bird, and then you'd look up, and there it is. And they're like $5,000 a pair. And she said she sold about 40 pair a year. I said, that's a hell of a business. That's a racket. I didn't know that many people would come down and pay $5,000 just to get hearing aids to hear these birds. But
Well, you mentioned hearing aids.
If it's your hobby, it's your habit.
Yeah, that's another program we have at Lake Chapala Society. We have, professionals that offer a hearing clinic, an eye clinic, all right there at Lake Chapala Society.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
There you go.
I need to
What a
come over
wise
there
guy. What a wise guy.
I'll tell you what. You all do everything, and if you don't do it,
Immigration lawyers.
you know
we have
somebody that
everything
does.
there. Yeah.
And if you're an expat, and you're going to be coming down here, if you're a snowbird, and you've never been, you need to get over there and check it out and find out what you need to do, and
We're
say
open to
hello to
everybody.
Steve when you see
There's a
him.
membership. You can be a member of the organization, which gives you benefits. We have a monthly magazine we publish.
Oh,
a
that's
whole bunch of
unbelievable.
different
And it's online also.
It's
I get it
online
out
also,
the
right.
first of every month.
Right.
I get
But you don't have to be a member to go there. So there are many people that come in just for the day because they're only visiting for a short period of time. You can get a month's membership if you want, but so there's lots of opportunities there. But our grounds are really open to everybody, and we really, that's important to us that everybody can come there and participate and be part of the community.
Well, let me touch on another thing that's a really, really fun program is the Open Circle. And I don't know if that's sponsored by Lake Chapala Society or you just let them use the grounds if it's own entity, but I see you up there in front every now and then giving the introduction and telling a few of the jokes. It's every Sunday almost at what, 10:30?
So every Sunday morning, 10:30 to 11:30. It's non-denominational. It's different presentations on the quality of the lake and the water, to immigration issues. Wills is a big topic that comes out. Doing a will in Mexico. So there's many different
Cultural things. I know you've had a lady on that lives over, I think, in the Mexico City, Michoacan area, that she studies the migration of the monarch butterfly every year. And she has, I think, a boutique hotel where you can come and go to where there's, I'd say thousands or millions, but it's probably closest to billions of butterflies that just overtake these giant orchards of trees and live there at a certain time of the year, and then they all migrate back to the States or wherever. She's been on. I've had you've had all kinds of people.
Right.
You had Ben Franklin on there a couple
We have
times.
Ben Franklin that comes
he
every
came
year
down and
around
you
the 4th of
transported
July.
him from 1775 and 6. And
Complete in Ben Franklin
he's going to be
attire.
on my program one of these
He's
days if I can
incredible.
get him re-erected from the dead.
He's a great
And
guy.
go up there to, he's probably buried in Philadelphia or London. I don't know where the original
Yeah. He's a good man. He's a good man.
man is, but and a really, really interesting guy is Michael Hogan. He's
Yeah.
a PhD and specializes
Written
in
books.
Mexican
Yeah.
history.
Yeah,
Unbelievable guy.
sure.
And see, open circles, you never know what the top. Well, you do know what the topic is going to be if you go to the Lake Chapala Open Circle webpage and see what the future dates are, because you put them 3 or 4 or 5 weeks in advance.
Right.
And the neat thing about it, you can go. It's free, open to the public. Unbelievable sitting arrangements. A lot of fun. It's quick. It's about an hour, and then everybody heads off to the different restaurants that are closed.
Yeah.
And it's a fun to get to there 30 minutes early and visitate and conversate with all your friends and meet new people. They always ask who's here for the first time, and there's always 4 or 5 hands go up, and then they get to talk about where you're from and this, that, and the other. And then you get to hear some jokes, and then you get to listen to the speaker or speakers. I'll tell you what, a couple of weeks ago you had a guy that was playing, he was telling stories, and then there was a guy playing music all behind in the background, and then he'd play a little music all by himself. That was incredible.
I wasn't there for that one.
Oh,
but
it was incredible. And I hope they can come back and tell some more stories about that. But
Then we also have, for example, there's a youth orchestra and choir here in town, and each holiday we have them come in, the students come in. This year it's going to be the students at the mariachi school that are going to come in for the holidays and do on a Sunday morning part of Open Circle and do their presentation of music. And we've sort of watched these kids over the past 5 years, how they've grown music experience-wise. It's heartwarming when you just watch that.
well, I don't know exactly when we're going to air this episode, but I understand you're going to have a Halloween costume party.
So
Or
that's
Michael Thriller, John Jackson type deal or something.
Yeah. Well,
What's that about? I've heard it from a couple of people.
Yeah, for those that haven't spent time in Mexico, the Day of the Dead, in Mexico they really celebrate people's lives that have passed. And that's a very important part of the culture. So there's a Dia de los Muertos. And so the end of October, really the first couple of days of November, there's all kinds of activities and events around town. So we have activities at Lake Chapala Society. Open Circle will be on that topic for that weekend. And then also people from the community build what they call altars. If you've ever seen the movie Coco, you'll know what an altar is. People build altars, and each level of the altar has a different meaning and importance. And so this is where they pay tribute to people. If somebody's passed away, they might have their favorite beer bottle sitting on their altar, or their favorite food and what have you. And so last year, Alfredo, who's the head director of our program department, he started this initiative here where people from the community come in and can build altars for display on
Inside
the
the Lake
Lake
Chapala
Chapala Society. So that's very, very interesting, fascinating, and education. You learn a lot through this.
Well, the great thing working with the university and doing my radio show and the podcast through the university, I have a lot of professors at my beck and call. And I can call and say, hey, would you come and talk about the true meaning of the Day of the Dead? Would you come and talk about the true Independence Day in Mexico? It's not Cinco de Mayo.
Right.
And other things about, I have at my disposal a bunch of PhDs and a bunch of master level professors that can come and talk about all these different topics. So that's a great source. So if you ever need to pull from that, you're more than welcome to holler. I can get you an expert on just about anything.
Anything. There you go. That's great.
The only thing I have to say away is politics. The university's funded by the
Right. And we're
federal
not
government.
political at all.
We're not
Our
political,
organization.
and that's one thing about Lake Chapala Society. It's open to everybody.
Right.
If they'd accept me, I have a rule and regulation. I'll never join an organization or a club that have somebody like me as a member. And you all even accepted me, and so they'll accept anybody. But it's a great opportunity to come and learn about the area, about the people, about services, about anything, any question. There's no question that's too stupid.
You can find an answer there. There's somebody that'll have an answer.
Where's the best tacos in town? Where's the best chicken fried steak. I mean, there's anything.
How to get insurance on your vehicle? that
Oh,
you
exactly.
bought.
And like you mentioned, driver's license, wheels, anything.
Getting your permanente status here.
So
in
believe it or
Mexico.
not, the time's almost up.
Yeah. Perfect.
What do you want to say to the expat community that I haven't asked you that we haven't already hit on? I
think
gave you the last 5 minutes of yours.
The main thing I think is come on down and explore. There's so many opportunities for everybody here. And no matter what your interests are, there's probably something. Now, when you're moving to Mexico, one of the big questions you have to ask yourself is what style person are you? And what do you enjoy? If you're a fun in the sun, lay on the beach type person, Ajic is not the right place for you.
Yeah,
Puerto
deep sea
Vallarta might be.
fishing, surfing, mountain climbing. Go to Puerto Vallarta, the Bay of
Puerto Vallarta,
Banderas. That's
yeah.
all over there. Golfing.
Sure. But
Over
if you
here
love
it's
a
more
nice
relaxed.
colonial town with nice artists, and the expat community is about a third of the community, the population here. So, and people say, well, how do the two communities get along with each other? They don't know any other style. The expats have been here for 100 years. So it's really, has always been an integrated community, and people collaborate together. We work hard together to try to build more relationships, even more. And so I think that the opportunities here, the big thing is come and explore. I highly recommend people come on down, spend a month, 3 months, whatever you like, and just spend that time exploring the area. Because there's also so many different neighborhoods here.
That's true.
From Chapala to San Antonio, Rivera.
And I want to say something real important. It's not just retirement age people.
We're seeing younger and younger
There's
people
a young
all the time.
lady that I know that's looking for somewhere right now in Mexico. She's lived in Mexico for 5 years now, all over. She traveled. She has her own podcast or blog, whatever you want to call these type shows, and she has for 5 years. She was over here recently, and she thought, well, maybe I'm too young to live in Ajijic, Lake Chapala area, because it's a lot of old people. But there's a lot of young people over here too, and it's getting more and more that
so,
way.
yeah.
And
People
so-
working from home, people that are working for a company in the United States, but can work from home here. All
That's
online.
exactly right.
There's
And
a
it's
lot of-
way, way, way cheaper living here and working here than it is anywhere in the United States. And in some of the more popular areas like Puerto Vallarta, the Bay of Banderas area, even San Miguel Aliente or Mexico City, or the city of Guadalajara.
Mhm.
You can come over here and get a really, really great property, a rental, or buy a home. Food's very inexpensive over here, and there's all kinds of entertainment, all kinds of places to hang out, things to do. And
Sure.
so anyway, no matter how old you are, come on
Come on
down
visit.
and come visit and have a good time. And when you do, be sure you go to Lake Chapala Society, look Steve up, say hello, visit with him if you see him walking down the street. Don't-
Absolutely.
You know, he's never met a stranger. That's Will Rogers, who was an Oklahoman like I am. You know, one of his famous sayings was, "I never met a man I didn't like."
Yep. Yeah.
And I think you're the same way.
I believe in people.
You have a lot of friends,
Yeah.
and that's what makes the world go round. Steve, thank you very, very
Thank
much for
you
your
so much,
time. I
Bob.
appreciate you coming, sharing, and if something big's coming up, don't hesitate to contact me. Come back on the program, okay?
Absolutely. And thank
All
your
right.
crew for helping out today. Thank you so much. Mike.
All right. Well, we're going to take another break. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Expat Conversations. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Happy trail.